Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. All the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. Football Saturday. Remember, football on Off the Ball is brought to you by Sky. Watch every match from the Africa Cup of Nations live on Sky Sports. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation as well. Listen on News Talk, watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels for Periscope on Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook and on the OTB Sports app for iOS and Android. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download it if you haven't already. Joined on the line on Skype by the former League of Ireland and FAI Cup winner Graham Gartland, UEFA Pro Licence coach Shane Keegan, and in studio with me, football correspondent of the Irish Independent Dan McDonnell. Dan, how are you getting on?
Good, John. Lads, all good.
We had kind of an organic debate, folks, that just came out of nowhere in the news round with Shane Hannon and Will O'Callaghan, because we were speaking about autographs and that kind of thing, and Shane was talking about how when he was 15 years of age he wrote to Roger Federer or his management company or whatever, and then he got a signed photo back, and then he got into this whole habit of get in touch with Martin Sheehan, and Martin Sheehan wrote him a handwritten letter and all this kind of stuff. So we actually asked the audience, and it just went a bit mad on the text machine about people meeting their heroes or their sporting heroes or their football heroes. I'm just going to read out a few here. 53106, my dad's friend was on the same flight home from Euro 88 as the Irish team and got the tournament programme signed by the Irish squad. He gave it to me as a memento of the trip. It's a number 19 Frank Stapleton's jersey, supposedly won in a secondary school draw. My dad organised the draw, a definite touch of the father Ted's. When my name came out, and I love this one as well. HEFO chairman of the Labour Court, Kevin Heffernan, the former Dublin manager at the time. My friend was a senior union official across the negotiating table. He says after a pay deal was agreed, the last time I got your autograph was back in the 70s. I had to crawl over barbed wire at Hill 16 to get on the pitch. Martin in Dublin on 53106. Dan, were you ever a man for hero worship, getting these autographs, waiting at games, like for the Paddy Bonners, the David O'Learys, the John Aldridges?
We're talking about, I've got to meet Shane Keegan and Graham Gartland loads of occasions, So, but no, I was actually thinking about it. I sort of vaguely recall, I wouldn't have been massively into that, into that sort of hero worship stuff, but I was thinking maybe sometimes you just tend to forget that, because it's so long ago. But I do remember that the Irish team used to train. I think a lot of people in the northeast would remember this, that I think the Irish team used to go and stay in the Nuirmore Hotel sort of near Carrickmacross in Monaghan. I think they would train maybe around there, but then in Oriel Park and Dundalk sometimes too, and there'd be these big open training sessions. And I think probably I subsequently read some of the books, and I think this was a very good social trip for some of the players to go up to this hotel, and they probably had some nights out in the area.
Disco pants.
Yeah, but I think there is some photographs of me when I was younger going to those training sessions, I think with maybe Chris Hughton and stuff. So it would have been early Jack team, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
If Chris Hughton was there, probably around that general era. So I think there's a few photos of that nature at home. And I think then at one stage in the mid-90s, I was on a team. We went over on a trip over to Liverpool. We would have sort of met the Manchester United team at the time. I think we went to Old Trafford for a tour or something, and vaguely recall a very tall Peter Schmeichel and a young David Beckham there. That's maybe about the height of it, I think it's more of it's a very much, as you know, when you're working in the world, it's a complete no-no. Although some people still do it, to try and get some photos or autographs and stuff in the mixed zones, because you have been in the presence of some superstars, and after World Cup finals and stuff like that. But you wouldn't be heading up with your autograph.
Lifts are strange. Glenn Hoddle and Arsene Wenger walked into a lift, and I was kind of going to myself, obviously I'm working, so I'm not going to say anything to them, and I didn't say anything to them, but you're kind of going, that's Arsene Wenger. And then you see them in the physical, God, this man is tall and he looks great for 69.
The World Cups are funny for that. It is definitely, as you would see, because I remember going to do a piece, I think I actually was going to do a piece with Martin O'Neill, but it was in a hotel where a lot of the pundits were staying, and you sort of see Arsene Wenger and Avram Grant popping out for a coffee together, and heading out for a stroll down the beach, down to Copacabana in Brazil. You're thinking, Arsene Wenger and Avram Grant, I wouldn't have put them together as as a lunch pair. But then I assume, and the lads will have much better stories on this, I suppose the networking, particularly if you've done maybe coaching stuff or whatever, you do get a sense that, I think that's actually a real regret that I've been talking to people who've been on pro licenses and stuff at the moment, that they haven't had that interaction. That's mainly with the fellow students, but sometimes you go, you encounter various people and they come and speak to you, whereas I think it's all been done online now, so it's probably a very different buzz. But I'm sure the lads have some sure lads with some good names to drop from their experiences somewhere.
Hero worship, Graham Gartland, is that something you ever engaged in, or are you much more down to earth?
Yeah, of course. That's how you start, isn't it? I remember just watching Paul McGrath and just being absolutely mesmerised by him as a kid, thinking that's why I wanted to be a defender, just from watching him. And then I got the chance to meet him. So that was great, and it was a big thing of mine. I know you have Johnny Giles on a lot. My dad would have brought me up being a massive Johnny Giles fan. So I would have watched old videos of Leeds playing and would have been able to know all the team and stuff, because he used to just sit me down and watch them, watch how they play type of thing. Look at how aggressive they were, and I probably went in there somewhere with the red cards they ended up having. But it was just that type of, from where I grew up, it was big to look up to people, and that's how you wanted to be. Boxing, another one I got to meet. Went to a boxing show and got to meet Barry McGuigan. That was another big thrill for myself. So the only one I haven't met that I would probably really like to meet, who was a hero of mine growing up, was probably John Barnes. I loved watching John Barnes when I was younger. I just thought he could do no wrong. Him and Paul McGrath were me two probably footballing heroes growing up, and obviously the Johnny Giles one was from my father. But I think that's what that's what inspires you to play football. Like after the 94 World Cup, I think every boy in Ireland wanted to be Paul McGrath. And he inspired these type of people inspire generations, and that's why being a sporting hero is such an iconic role to have, and it's great, and it weighs heavy on some people, but that's why it's something to aspire to, really,
That is why it's so important to qualify for these tournaments and give younger people that sense of fun and joy. And that's why I suppose we talk about it at length forever, because this is the biggest deal. And that's why we talk about Stephen Kenny. People go, you're Kenny FM and all that.
Belief as well, John. Sorry for cutting across you. Belief as well that we can, even though we're from this place, we can compete on a world stage, on a global stage. And like Roberto Baggio I think he got the Golden Boot that year. I think he won the Ballon d'Or as well. And then you have someone like Paul McGrath going up against him, who is riddled with injuries, really bad shoulder going into that tournament, didn't think he could play, and still puts in a performance. So it just shows you, it gives you that belief that I could actually do that. And that's like you said, the tournament and all the World Cups is so important, but that global stage to make you realise we can actually do this.
So any autographs unframed or anything in the drawer, Graham?
No, I never got them. I just like chatting to them and talking about football and talking about boxing or talking about different things, just to pick their brain and see what they thought. I remember, again, we started off with the biggest name drops in the world here, but Gordon Strachan used to turn up to train him when we were at Dundee, and he'd come in and have lunch with us and sit in the office, and it was great. And one of the first questions there was a lad who used to do video analysis, and I used to say to him, Paul McGrath is one of the best defenders of all time, and we'd always argue, and he'd laugh, and he'd say Alan Hansen, and it'd be a Scottish Ireland thing, and we'd have these discussions. And then I asked Gordon Strachan, and he says, no, it's Paul McGrath, he was unbelievable. So I just looked at him, man, says, yeah, back in your box there,
You and Fergie. Shane Keegan, any autographs at home?
Yeah, I went to secondary school in Marion College, which was on Lansdowne Road, John. So we used to bunk off classes for the Irish senior training sessions. One of my mates, his uncle, was one of the stewards on the gate. So he used to let us into the training sessions when the lads were training. We would regularly have been running around at the back of the goal, gathering up the balls. When Mick McCarthy was in charge first time round, we would have been running around the back of the goals and gathering the balls and throwing them back on for the shooting drills and stuff like that. So we'd get a good opportunity to get a good few autographs then. I was kind of always, I wouldn't be going for the biggest name. I'd try and be the smart arse who wanted to talk about the up and coming stars. So I'd be after Dave Connolly's autograph, or Richie Sadler's autograph, or somebody like that who was 18, 19 after breaking into it, sort of a thing. In terms of being kind of, I suppose, starstruck, probably the one. Growing up, I would have probably been even more so Celtic nearly than Spurs in terms of my support base. And I went to do the A licence. I actually did my A licence up the north through the IFA. And on my A licence course was Jackie McNamara. Now, when I played, I was a right back, a very bad right back, John, but I was a right back, and Jackie McNamara to me was just the greatest thing of all time. So to have him on the course, and we actually got reasonably close over the course that week. Most of the people on that course were of the blue persuasion. So Jackie didn't have a whole lot of people to spend his time with maybe and hang out with. So he ended up drinking a few pints of them at night, and that it does feel a little bit surreal. But I suppose in a kind of a lighter one, the year after we won the first division in my own town here in Rathdowney and Laois, they had the Christmas lights. The turning on of the Christmas lights was done jointly by myself and Des Cahill, and my mother had me plagued to get her Des Cahill's autograph. And I was trying to explain to her, Ma, I'm Des Cahill's equal tonight. Like, I'm not supposed to be going after his autograph. Like, but yeah.
Did you ask for it, Shane? You didn't finish that story.
No, I did not. I refused to ask for it. Dan, no way.
Just checking. It would have been a lovely moment if you had,
John's. If she wanted John's, I'd ask for John's, so I would. But no, not Des Cahill.
It is true. Like you probably can get a bit old and cynical about it, but you sort of forget how important those experiences are when you're younger. To see those, like I think one of the worst things about the last couple of years. I don't know if either of the lads was at it working or doing whatever, but like Zlatan was in Tala. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was in Tala in the last 2 years, like September 2020, like in an empty stadium, and just imagine the amount of I remember the bus came in and there was people trying to get a sight at the bus, but in normal times probably it would have been mobbed, and a lot of people, a lot of kids, their first game might have been brought to watch Zlatan play in Tala, and that was sort of something that they just didn't get to do, and it was one of these very surreal things that you're in a closed doors game for what is quite a huge moment, Zlatan to come and play against Shamrock Rovers, that you hear these stories of the great teams coming to play here in the 70s and the early 80s, Spurs played here and Liverpool, the good Liverpool team in the sort of the 70s, I think they hammered Dundalk 10-0 or something, but people would have seen some of these legendary figures, or even some of the friendlies, Eric Cantona missing a penalty for Man U in the 90s and stuff, and these big friendly games, and Zlatan and Tala would have been something that would have been very accessible for people with the sort of more narrow confines, say, compared to the Aviva. And that was taken away, and you think, yeah, God, there was thousands of stories could have been spawned from that, and they weren't, So I think even sometimes you see these little open training sessions, and maybe you're going there with your working hat on, and it's like, God, there's loads of kids here, and it's a bit messy, but actually, that was you, and you have to remember these are the big events and the big moments that people still remember and text in about 20, 30 years later listening to some show, Well,
that young lady will never forget Ronaldo giving her the shirt, will she, after the Portugal-Ireland game?
Yeah.
A few months ago, and we got lots of texts on meeting famous people or getting your autograph or getting a memento. 53106 played Bay Hill Golf Club in 2007. Arnold Palmer was in the locker room after our round. There's no bar there. He had a drink with us. He took pictures. Sandman. How I got his autograph? No, says Kean. I've got the 1995 United jersey, Cantona 7 on the back, signed by George Best, says Carl in Cork. Hey lads, I've got a special jersey signed by the Galway All-Ireland champions, a special GA 125th anniversary banquet even, Aina in Galway. I was the starter for the
Johnny Ward. Write that in, did he?
No, it's from Aina in Galway.
Johnny's code name, I think, to be fair.
Very good. I was the starter for the 2016 Irish Open at the K Club, got pros in the Pro-Am to sign a flag, says Eamon in Kildare. And this is a funny one. Hi lads, I was lucky enough to mark the great John Fenton. This is the former Cork hurler, in a challenge match when I was 18. He was coming to the end of his career. I clattered him for a full hour, then asked him for his autograph in the clubhouse afterwards. He looked at me like I had two heads. No football this afternoon. That's why we're waffling a little bit here, but it's good waffle on Football Saturday because there's only championship games on. There's no Premier League, as we know. Barnsley 0, Bournemouth 1. Fulham 1, Blackpool 0 at the moment. It is Hull 1, Swansea 0. Luton 0, Blackburn 0. Also goalless in the matches between Middlesbrough and Coventry, and Millwall and West Brom. Preston 0, Bristol City 1. QPR 1, Reading 0. A 5:30 start between Peterborough and Sheffield United. Celtic goalless at the moment with Dundee United. It finished Ross County 3, Rangers 3, Kilcoo 1-1. St Finbarr's 2 points in that AIB All-Ireland Club Football Championship semi-final. In the Ladies Club Football Final in Birr, Mornabbee of Cork 1-7, Kilkerran Clonbyrne of Galway 1-11. And Rangers conceding a 96th-minute equaliser in that 3-3 draw at Ross County. So 5 points ahead of Celtic, with Celtic now in action at home to Dundee United. Champ, was involved there in racing, was he? I think, Dan.
Oh, he was racing.
Beaten.
Disappointed he didn't commentate on it.
Well, that's
last week. You know,
too much of a good thing.
You've lost your touch. Yeah, I was half watching it. I think it was Paisley Park.
Paisley Park 5-1 in the Cleef Hurdle. Chantry House 6-5 on favourite, winning the Cotswold Chase. This is trials day at Cheltenham. And we also had as well the juvenile hurl, the Grade 2 Pied Piper.
Yeah, Champ beaten after Classical Dream beaten in Garran on Thursday.
Yeah,
I was down in Garran on Thursday.
What a great day it is, isn't it?
And it was just, and I think, I mean, I know this is a bit of a tangent on the football show, but it probably was like going to a sporting event with a full crowd. It sort of whets your appetite for what's coming in the coming weeks, you know, be it whatever your sporting code may be. You know, there's a lot going on in the next couple of weeks. I'm probably, you know, the lads will be looking forward to going back to Leave Ireland grounds in a couple of weeks' time, and just to be there with the sort of the restrictions weren't really visible as such. You know, they were there lingering in some ways in the background, but yeah, it's good. There's get out there and go to stuff in the next couple of weeks, people. You know, I think that those chances.
I was actually wondering that, Dan. I was down in Kilkenny this morning, actually, for most of the morning, and I met a couple of people who'd been out there on the Thursday, and they were commenting on, you know, the huge crowd that was there, and I was thinking to myself, was the crowd bigger than before, or have we just forgot what a huge crowd looks like? Do we now think that a sizable crowd is an enormous crowd because it's so long since we've seen one?
Yeah, no, I think it was. I think they said it was something around 8,500, 9,000. I'd been on the last time I'd gone racing was the same day 2 years ago. You know, it was sort of like. And it was very similar in terms of the feel, if you know what I mean. So, but it is true. I think, and I know we had full. I mean, we had Ireland Portugal a couple of months ago. You know, so I don't know. People have had, you know, sporting events like that, but maybe it's just the regularity.
Do you know what it is?
Now.
It's the first time we've not thought about COVID.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's a different thing. It's not, you're sort of, well, going racing is a bit different because you're sort of casually walking around the whole time. You're not in one spot, but there is definitely that more sense that this isn't, oh, we're lucky to have this. It's just, we're getting back to this being the normal thing. And yeah, it just sort of, I think actually, as a general theme, I think it'll be interesting to see in all sports this year, will there be a bit of a crowd boom? You know, will it be a sense that people? I think you've actually seen it. I think it was some of the attendances for some of the GAA games, the sort of, you know, lower grade, I suppose, or pre-season fare. It seems to me like some of the crowds are bigger than you might have expected for those events normally. And I'd really be hoping that sort of translates into sort of the League of Ireland here. That I think people realise, okay, if they're sitting on the fence and they've a choice between going and not going, they might be more inclined to go now because they don't take it for granted anymore. And that's got to be the hope for what comes down the tracks.
I think the All Ireland hurling club final, John, I think the attendance of that will be absolutely colossal. That's only a couple of weeks away now, and I think there'll be, like, there's such an interest there with Ballygunner, you know, first time there, and with Ballyhale and what they're trying to achieve. I think that the attendance at that, because of the appetite for sporting events, will be through the roof. No,
I don't think anybody will take it for granted as much as they might have going to sporting events. We just all can't wait for the Six Nations next week, and so much on. Kilcoo at the moment 1-1, Bars 3 points, Connacht 7 points, Glasgow 5 in the United Rugby Championship. Sammy Arnold with the try for Connacht in that one, and Rory McIlroy 10 under par through 3 rounds of the Dubai Desert Classic in second, only 2 shots behind the leader Justin Harding. Football wise, Graham, Frank Lampard looks set for Everton. Is that a good move for both Frank and for the club?
I think it's a good move for Frank. Yeah, I think to get back in. I know reports are saying he had talks with Crystal Palace, he had talks with Norwich and stuff, and they all fell through. Everton have probably sussed out a few other people. I know they were in touch with Belgium to see could he have a job share partnership with Martinez to try and get Martinez back. The Belgian FA refused that. So I think it's a good move. Yeah, I think he's a young, energetic manager. He's obviously gonna hope to bring energy. He has something to prove as well. I think Everton needs structures in place, which we spoke about last week, John. They've lost a lot of staff behind the scenes, director of football, director of medicine, coaching staff and stuff. So I think he's going to maybe keep Duncan Ferguson. I think whoever comes in is going to have to amalgamate Duncan Ferguson into that staff at some stage. They'll take in Anthony Barry. There's rumours that he's going to bring him in as well. So I think when they've sort of gone around the houses a little bit and sussing other people out, and then they've gone, right, well, we have to go with Lampard. Lampard seems like he's up to taking it. Obviously, having refused a couple of other jobs. I know Bournemouth were interested in him too. So It looks like it could be a good fit. I just think it just needs to be a steady progression here of building the club back up, because Benitez had sort of built it up for him to be successful. So now somebody else has to build it so that the club is successful, not just the manager, if that makes sense. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's not really about the manager at Everton anymore, isn't it? It's about the structures of the club, the wage bill, that some players are on wages that are too high probably for their talent and their ability. A lot of flops in terms of signings, managerial revolving doors. So you've got a load of players coming in under different managers. Farhad Moshiri seems to be quite closely linked with Kia Drabshian, the agent. A completely weird week. Vito Pereira selling himself live on TV, didn't get the job. Graffiti, Pereira out, Lampard in, bizarre stuff on Liverpool.
The discrepancy between the wages can cause uneasiness in your squad then, because you're looking around going, he's on X amount of money and he's not even that good, and I'm here on this amount of money, and that's where it becomes a little bit, and especially when your team is struggling, you can sort of implode a little bit and they can turn on each other, and that's why they need a structure that whoever's in charge of the club is coming in and running a smoother ship, because at the moment my worry is whoever takes the Everton job has to put out so many fires around them that you don't get to concentrate on what's going on the pitch. And I think at the moment you just need to employ somebody as the head coach, bring in a proper director of football that oversees fixing all the other stuff, and let the head coach, whether it's Lampard, work on the first team, work on the staff, get a more balanced squad in terms of wages and things like that, and slowly have an input on fixing the other things around the club that aren't really, if they are affecting it, but they're not what's going to happen on the pitch on a Saturday. So that's where I think if they get Lampard to focus on that while they put in somebody else to help fix the other stuff going on around it, eventually they'll work together, because on the pitch is working and off the pitch is working, and at the moment nothing seems to be going right for them.
Yeah, they were always the Irish club, weren't they, in Liverpool? Was it Peter Farrell, Tommy Eglinton at Everton, Shane Keegan? And I'm thinking to myself, Lampard, got Chelsea to fourth, FA Cup final rather. But Chelsea can be a very, very difficult place to manage, especially when you're going in there so, young in your managerial career. Callow kind of start for Frank Lampard. It didn't work out. We also know what Tuchel's done subsequently. I'll be interested to see if Anthony Barry moves from Chelsea and joins Lampard at Everton.
I think it's actually a point I was just about to bring up, John. Yeah, I'd be amazed. Like, what is the attraction there? Why would he make that move? That would seem really, really strange, unless he feels underutilised or undervalued at Chelsea. But I don't think that's the case. Like they seem to rate him and realise how important he is. I know Stephen certainly absolutely raves about him, as do the players. So it would seem on the surface, unless the lads know something I don't, on the surface it would seem a very, very strange move if he was to consider that. But look, they need to get things in place very fast. They've become a bit of a laughing stock over the last while. I mean, in terms of, obviously, people have been shipped out of the club because Benitez didn't want them around, and then within a fortnight Benitez has gone himself. I'm just looking at the fixtures here: Newcastle, Leeds, Southampton as their next three, John. He needs to really, really hit the ground running. I think he gets a harsh enough rap, Lampard. I don't know what it is, whether it's the confidence that he seems to ooze, or whether it's the amount that the English media seem to back him, or what it is. But I think over here we're not overly fond of him, and that leads to him getting a harsh enough rap. I think he did a reasonably good job at Chelsea, to be fair to him. Look, obviously everybody's time at a club ends poorly, otherwise you wouldn't be getting sacked. So it didn't end fantastically, but when you look at the time he came in and the immediate kind of bounce he gave them, and I think over time it was a reasonable body of work, and I think he could potentially be a good appointment for them. I
think the Anthony Barry one is interesting. I mean, you say why would he leave? Well, I mean, the thing is, he is from Liverpool, and I don't know what his club allegiances are in terms of whatever, but I think he might have moved family to London for the Chelsea job, so potential to sort of go back home, and I think as well, I suppose you're listening to the language about this. I know there's some suggestion about maybe Steve Holland as well too, but I mean, is it potentially a chance to be a number two? And certainly like when he went into Chelsea, it was a sort of as a member of Lampard's coaching team, but I mean, I don't think it would be speculating to say like his status has risen considerably in the intervening period, and Everton have a lot of money, so I could imagine, a substantial pay bump also to move home and maybe to be closer to the decision-making process. I think there's a view that it could be tempting for Anthony Barry in that case. So I believe it's turned down sort of countless, well, not countless, but certainly more than one jobs in the lower league. So I don't know. It seems to me like it's one that could be a goer. But as you lads know, and it's how the game works, I mean, it could be one that gives him leverage in his position at Chelsea too, if they're desperate to keep him. So I can't see how he really loses from this scenario. But I suppose from the Irish point of view, it'll be watched very closely because he's been an integral part, it would appear, of the turnaround in the last sort of 6 months of last year. So any new arrangement that would demand more of his time at club level, there would be a natural question mark over whether he would proceed with Ireland. So that would be something to be aware of. I think I do agree with Shane. I think with Lampard, some of the hard time does come from, I think, some of the coverage around him. Like, you saw when he was at Chelsea, sort of some of the profile piece stuff. He's been given credit for setting up a coach's WhatsApp group, as this was sort of like a revolutionary thing to do. I mean, people can set one up for a stag, but it was in the sense that no one had ever actually thought of this, and I think that is, to be fair, nothing to do with Lampard. Now, he has at times given the odd interview and made the odd comment over the year that could be easily parodied, but he was actually doing a good job at Derby in terms of his managerial career and getting on the ladder. And it was just that he made such a jump that actually, if he'd gone from Derby to Everton, which ironically Wayne Rooney has said he's not going to do, he's opted to stay where he is, which makes you wonder, in a way, are people still wary of the difficulties of this job? But I think that would have been a very normal progression for him. And it'll be interesting to see, has Chelsea in any way, I don't know, like, what has he learned lessons from it that will temper his behaviour in any way? Because remember, his first year at Chelsea, he was getting a lot of press as well. Good press for, they had the transfer ban and they had the embargo, and for his work with the younger players.
It's all about Mount and all these players.
But then it came to they had the checkbook then, and it was actually around that time it became a bit more complicated for him. So clearly with Everton, they have money to spend, but they haven't always spent it wisely. So that's part of the job. Finbar
is now 1-5, Kilcoo 1-3 in that club semi-final. 5-3-1-0-6. I agree with Graham Gartland that Lampard at Everton would be interesting, particularly on the sideline when he goes to Anfield. Will he be giving Klopp the big un? Says one of our texters. Quite a funny text. Steve Holland also meant to be joining up with Lampard and Barry, says one of our texters. And Steve has put me in my place. Everton was not the Irish club. Not sure why there is a need to pigeonhole. Both set up by the same man. Everton were a Methodist church team originally. So there you go.
But they had more Irish, like, as you said, they had the late 40s, the players you mentioned. There was I don't think you were completely off the mark there at all, John.
Okay, 5-3-1-0-6. Just before we go to the break, Graham, Luis Diaz seems to be going to Liverpool. They move very quickly, don't they? With, like, Jota was like, what happened there? And then he's at Liverpool, and this guy seems to be just snapped up under the noses of Spurs. 60 million.
Yeah, took them off your hands, didn't he?
Yeah, well,
he's last 3 years and 2.5 years in Port have been good. He's been averaging probably a goal every 3 games, which is a sort of a good turnaround for the winger, really. But this year he's really taken off. He scored 14 goals in 18 games in the league this season for Porto. So it's a massive goal tally, and he's a big lad. I've been watching clips on him the last 2 days. He's a big lad. He's a very direct runner. It'll take a while for him to settle into how Liverpool play with the demands that are on them in terms of getting the ball back and the sprint distances that they have to cover as a team. But he looks a really exciting signing. The 3 lads up front, they're all going into their 30s next year: Firmino, Salah and Mane. So they're obviously looking to eventually, amalgamate other lads into that team. Jota's come in and broke probably the 3 of them up a little bit this season due to Firmino being injured and things. But he looks an exciting signing. And like you said, he looks robust enough. I think he's over 6 foot. He adds another dimension to them. So it'll be interesting how they do. But you haven't got many wrong in the transfer window in the last 5 seasons. They haven't picked out many ones that you sort of question. Minamino maybe hasn't hit the heights that they would have expected from him. I think there's talk of him maybe moving on as well. Divock Origi might be moving on too. So they're looking to maybe make room for Luis Diaz to come in the next couple of days as well. So it's an interesting move from Liverpool. But like you said, you don't seem to get too many transfers wrong at the moment. Spurs,
Conte, when is he going to walk out of Spurs, Shane Keegan?
Johnny, he must be so frustrated. He really must. I mean, Diaz seems like exactly what Tottenham really, really need at the moment. And you would have thought that they would have done whatever they needed to do, really, really push the boat out to try and make it happen. But look, as we know, and you certainly know, it's business first. What happens on the pitch second when it comes to Levy, and it just seems to be getting in the way of so many deals potentially been done. You would think, all things being equal, I suppose it's easier sell Spurs as a place where he can come in and make an instant impact. I mean, I'm sure the boy has confidence in himself, and he is, as Graham has said, he seems to be doing very, very well lately, but he's still going to have work on his hands there to try and make himself a regular, whereas he could do that a hell of a lot easier at Tottenham and could become a massive player for the club in a very, very short space of time. But I suppose Daniel Levy's
football, Shane, though, isn't it? Like, when you put it to a player to say, do you want to go to Spurs, where they've been so erratic over the last few years since Pochettino left, and then you look and put Liverpool in front of them, and you say, right, you've Champions League football, you've a settled manager that's been with the club for 6 years, you've a settled squad, and you're going to come into that. To be honest, from a player's point of view, it's an easier pick to go to Liverpool. I understand you were saying, well, I might get more game time at Spurs, but he's probably going to play in the Champions League and try and be as successful as he can be.
Yeah, look, I'm trying to put myself in the club's shoes. That's probably the only angle that they have in terms of Spurs, because obviously Liverpool are ticking a hell of a lot of boxes that Tottenham aren't at the moment. And it's you just have to try and sell it as well. Which do you want to be, a bit part player at a club that are operating at a higher level, or the absolute fulcrum of things here? But it doesn't matter, Graham, when it comes to getting the deal done. Obviously Liverpool seem to be willing to go that extra yard, as they have been when they've really, really targeted a player. You have to hand it to Liverpool. When they target somebody and they say, right, that's the one we want, they just like you said, they just get it done. Whereas it's the complete and utter opposite with Spurs. They're so far to go, and it's kind of get close to the edge of getting a deal done, and next thing back away, no, we won't give you that extra few quid,
I know we're about to go to ads, John, but like the Diaz backstory is brilliant. I'm not sure if people are aware. He's from
let us know.
He's from basically an indigenous people of Colombia, from a tribe, effectively. So he was discovered in a tournament, maybe, I don't know, like sort of 6-7 years ago, where basically the indigenous people of Colombia, they basically they have a tournament for people from that neck of the woods, so to speak, and to see if they can discover some talent amongst those people, and that's where Luis Diaz came to the fore. But there was a real concern because of his upbringing that he would be badly underweight. So in his younger years, just because of his diet or whatever, the way the life in which he grew up. And I think there's great footage then of, I don't know, when he hit the big time, there was some particular tournament he came back for, either with Porto or Colombia. He went back home and he was out playing with the local kids. A lot of them were barefoot and stuff like that. He really has come from nowhere, really. And it's it's an incredible story that I think Carlos Valderrama had a big part in spotting him. I think that's part of the great Carlos Valderrama. You have that link between Colombia 1990 and 94 to today, that I think he spotted his talent. But I mean, his backstory is genuinely incredible in terms of sort of rags to riches, and it actually would make you very inclined to root for him wherever he does end up.
Yeah, he was playing.
We know where he's ended up now, obviously.
Yeah, against Peru in a World Cup qualifier there. They lost by 1-0. Luis Diaz, and he's got 16 goals for Porto this season. So how will he do at Liverpool? Liverpool fans, are you excited about it? That transfer 53106 if you want to get in touch with us. On Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk, Graham Gartland, Shane Keegan, Dan McDonnell. Look forward to the chat on James Abankwah and lots of other issues after this. And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you here to 5. Let's get an update now on the AIB All-Ireland Club Football Championship semi-final involving Kilcoo and St Finbarrs in Portlaoise. Aisling O'Reilly, what's the latest?
Yes, John, it's Kilcoo 1-3, St Finbarrs 1-5. A cagey enough start by both teams, really trying to figure each other out. There was 2 minutes gone on the clock when a pass from a down man playing for St Finbarrs, Conor McCrickard, laid it off to Killian Myers-Murray, who got the first score of the game. Kilcoo responded almost immediately through a well-taken score 30 yards out from Ryan Johnson. The down men then won the kick-out, went in the attack again, and Jerome Johnson picked out his brother Ryan, who had one thing in his mind, and fired to the back of the net, scoring 1-1 in the space of a minute. Kilcoo very much playing the running game, 14 to 15 men back behind the ball in their own half, then waiting to overturn and then break at pace, with St Finbarrs really finding it tough to break through at times. Owen McGreevy and Stephen Sherlock pointed from frees for St Finbarrs, making a 1-1 to 3 points. It's a very tough and physical game. Ian Maguire doing really well for Bars in the middle of the field. But it was 27 minutes gone in the clock when Kilcoo got overturned in their own half from a short kick out, and St Finbarrs went straight for goal and made no mistake through Paul Greenan, putting the Bars 2 points ahead. Kilcoo looking quite rattled at the minute, but very happy to hear that half-time whistle. Half-time score here is St Finbarrs 1-5, Kilcoo 1-3.
Very good, Aisling, thanks for that for now. Don't forget the second semi-final between Padraig Pearses of Roscommon and Dublin's Kilmacud Crokes. That throws in at Breffni Park at 5. Our club championship coverage on Off the Ball brought to you by AIB, proud sponsors of the Football, Hurling and Camogie All-Ireland Club Championships. Check out #TheToughest for more. Now we're back with Football Saturday. Remember our coverage on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland Women's National Football Team. You can text us 53106 or tweet us at Off the Ball. Joined by Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent in studio, and also Shane Keegan, the UEFA Pro Licence coach, and the former League of Ireland and FAI Cup winner Graham Gartland on the line. I got a text in here from Ger in Limerick. Love to hear your thoughts on a lot of young Irish players now being snapped up to play overseas instead of across the water due to Brexit. Will we now start to see a more technical Irish player, more comfortable on the ball, for example? Well, Dan, that's timely because James Abankwah moved from St Pat's to Udinese during the week. He will stay at Pat's to complete his education, but he's going to be playing in Italy. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. I mean, it's actually not technically really Brexit related in the sense that he's turning 18 this year, but he would have been able to move in the summer. But it is it's definitely, there's definitely, I think, like the changes that have happened in underage football in the last couple of years here are like generational changes, like in terms of their significance. And there's no doubt that Brexit has completely led to a reset of a traditional way of thinking, and we're only really at the very, very early stages of seeing the impact. And I think in some respects the likes of Kevin Zeffy, who went to Inter Milan, and Graham, I think would know his story very well, and now James Abankwah, these are almost going to be the ones that their success or otherwise may even have an impact on the volumes that go that way in the coming years. Because the point is, Irish kids can go to Europe at 16, they just can't go to England at 16. So what might happen is a situation is if these players are particularly successful, you might see more going. And there's Dorian Zingo, who went from St Pat's, who's in France, and there is guys going on trials, Cottle Heffernan, something going on there with AC Milan, whether it happens or not in this window. So it is changing, no doubt. But the Abankwah one probably is part of that European trend, but there's another aspect to it which is quite significant in the context of maybe what you were speaking about last week. And maybe in recent weeks, is that the exodus of players from the league here, in some cases for very small money that would annoy people, sort of release clauses ranging from sort of 50 to 150 grand, and maybe some other players who've gone for less than that. Whereas in the case of James Abankwah, St Patrick's Athletic have managed to secure a considerable amount of money. I'm not entirely sure what the upfront is. I think there's conflicting figures around that, but it doesn't really matter whether it's a record or not. What's clear is that they have got a good deal for him, and the hope would be that this would be something that becomes a little bit more normal, because the Gavin Bazunu one was massive, and even subsequently he's already accrued something like 1.5 million for Shamrock Rovers. James Abankwah, will hopefully, be a similar success story. But the broader point here is that we can send players to England and you can send players to Europe, and it's more it might be interesting if you're a more technical type of player, but ultimately, like, the industry of the game here won't improve markedly over the longer term unless it becomes the norm to get properly compensated for the production of this talent. And that would be, yes, Brexit has changed a lot of things in terms of where players go, but if we have a situation, and I'm hearing stories already of, you know, players who might be looking to go to Europe who have minuscule sort of release clauses attached to them, and these will be like good in underage internationals, then yeah, it's interesting that the players will go to different places, but eventually you're going to end up maybe with the same situation that the well runs dry because we're not investing the money back into the game here for producing this talent. So there's a couple of layers to it. I'd be interested to hear the lads' thoughts, you know, about the lie of the land out there at the moment, because there's definitely a lot of interest in Ireland for a variety of reasons, but it needs to be followed up in by getting properly paid. So I would hope that the stance the Pats have taken with the banquet would be replicated elsewhere, but it's hard. I appreciate it's hard for clubs to do that too, because there's a lot of agents and people working the scene that make that a little bit more complicated.
Graham, are we going to see windfalls for Irish clubs off the back of this?
I hope so. I wouldn't sort of hold my breath on it. I think that the fact you get a windfall is the lad is on a professional contract. So during that age group of 16 to 18, which is the age group where the kids can't go to, the players can't go to the UK, but they can go to Europe. What club in the League of Ireland is willing to say to them 16 and 18 year olds, we'll give you a professional deal and we'll pay you full time. We'll pay you full time for 2 years. You can train 2 mornings a week. You'll do 3 other nights a week. We'll amalgamate your education. We'll build a whole plan around you for the next 2 years. So if and when a club comes in to give you a big fee, we're able to then negotiate a big fee on behalf of the club, but also that fee then increases the players' wealth going away. And so there's loads of things around this, and this is something I've been going on about this for 10 years, and I sometimes get sick listening to myself about it, because I'm thinking eventually everybody's catching up to go, hold on a minute. For example, if they've invested heavily in James O'Bank, they've given him a 5-year deal. 1 year into that deal, if James starts to struggle or something's not right or he's homesick, they're going to stick with him. They're going to put a plan around him. They're going to make sure, no, we've invested 5 years and we've invested a lot of money into this young player coming over. We have to make sure it works. If they sign him on 50 quid a week on a YTS and it doesn't work out after a year, they'll just cut the losses. Say, see you later. So the fact that if you're saying to a kid at 16 to say, sign a pro contract, trust us that we've your best interest at heart. We're going to put all these plans around you. We're going to try and help you. We've all these things set up for you to be successful. We're going to bring you through. But if a team comes in and they offer a minimal fee that doesn't meet our evaluation of you, we're not going to accept it. The player goes, right, I trust you on that. So not only are you increasing the value of the player, but you're increasing the value of the player going into the club he's going into as well. So now the club that's going into have gone, we've invested heavily in this young lad. We've done our scouting reports. We've paid big money for him. We're giving him good wages. So now we have to make sure that this boy is successful. You don't just cut him loose after he's finished his YTS, or, you know, we're not going to give him a good pro contract and then we can leave him go. And so again, that's why Dan's point about reinvesting it back into the facility. I can speak on behalf of Shamrock Rovers here and what the club done for Gavin. We now have an indoor hall with an indoor gym and an indoor training facility for the first team that use during the morning, and then the young players use it in the evening. So if the weather's bad, or my own son who's 6, when the weather was really bad, go on inside and play 5-a-sides in the hall. Indoor, Astro, brilliant. That came off the back of Gavin. So
Gavin Bazunu, yeah.
That came off the back of Gavin Bazunu, yeah. So again, that's what we're aiming to do, is that you're increasing the value of. We sold 2 goalkeepers in the last 2 years. Noah Jani went to a French club. He was with us for a long time. His father's French. We got compensation for that. And then Killian Cahill went to Brighton as well. The reason our goalkeepers are of value is, again, due to Gavin, due to the goalkeeper coaching that they receive as well. So you're constantly pushing the valuation of them up. But we have to improve everything else around it. Because if you turn up to watch a kid play, you turn up to watch Dundalk and the kids playing for Dundalk, and you look around at the surroundings, you're thinking, you can get them out here for nothing. Look at it. Look at the place. Yeah. So we have to sort of start bringing everything up around it. Otherwise, there will be one-off situations. There will be, he's an outlier, let's go get him. We'll pay big money for him because he's a one-off. So again, I'd be more a case of, we're building up the players now. Let's keep building the facilities as well, that we can have a full time age group of 16 to 18. Sorry, I went on a bit there, but
No, we'll talk about it afterward because it's an interesting point you make, Graham. We'll get Shane Keegan's views as well. We've got to take a break though for the news. Just let you know, Celtic 0, Dundee United 0 in the Scottish Premiership, and in the Championship half times, Barnsley 0, Bournemouth 1. Hull 2, Swansea 0. It is goalless between Luton and Blackburn, also goalless between Middlesbrough and Coventry, and between Millwall and West Brom. It is Preston 0, Bristol City 1 at half time, and QPR 3, Reading 0 at the break. And the latest score, Fulham 1, Blackpool 0. Graham Gartland, Shane Keegan, Dan McDonnell with you through to 5 on Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. We're back after the news. Stay with us.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, watch every single live Premier League game on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Listen in the car with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto on the News Talk app. Powered by Go Loud.
If your child is aged 5 to 11, you can now register for their free COVID-19 vaccine. COVID-19 usually causes mild to moderate illness in this age group, but it can cause more severe illness. All vaccines used in Ireland are tested before they're approved by the European Medicines Agency. To find out more or to register, go to hsc.ie or call HSE Live on 1800 700 700 from the HSC.
Just because I have a disability doesn't mean I'm inspirational. I was going to say I hate that word, but I made peace with it. But it's a word I absolutely detested. It lost all meaning. Inspiration to me is a Nelson Mandela, is a Muhammad Ali. It's not me.
Because we're all human means we're all equal. Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission. Learn more at ihrec.ie.
InsureMyCars.ie. Don't cut corners on your car insurance. Get a better quote at InsureMyCars.ie, Ireland's trusted car insurance specialists. We search the market to get you the best cover at the lowest prices. InsureMyCars.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as InsureMyCars.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
In 2021, Volkswagen's ID3 and ID4 were Ireland's best-selling all-electric cars. But leadership means more than being number one. It means you have trust and confidence in us to make a difference. Trust in us to create all-electric cars with zero driving emissions. And confidence that our all-electric cars help deliver a better future. That's Volkswagen all-electric leadership. This is just the start. Volkswagen. Best-selling all-electric cars last year. Claim applies to January to December 2021.
Need ink, toner or office supplies in a hurry? Shop local at 123ink.ie. Printers, paper, post-its, pens, batteries in a panic? Shop local at 123ink.ie.
Do you need security in a remote location? Have you power or connectivity issues? Then you need the NetWatch Eco Commander, a new self-powered solution in our rapid deployment security range. Like our original Commander, it can be on location, protecting your site within hours. The Eco Commander is cost-effective and environmentally friendly, with all the benefits of the trusted NetWatch service in a robust mobile unit. Find out more at netwatchsystem.com. NetWatch, creating a fearless environment.
If you smell gas at home or on the street, don't ignore it. Open windows and doors. Don't smoke, vape, or use a naked flame. Don't unplug or switch anything electrical on or off. Turn off the gas at the meter. Then, no matter who your gas supplier is, call Gas Networks Ireland on 1800 20 50 50. Visit gasnetworks.ie to screenshot the safety steps, save them to your device, and share with friends and family.
At AJ Products, we offer workplace solutions for office, school, warehouse, and environment. But at AJ, we do things differently. Our approach to quality and innovation means we design and make many of our own products, giving a more unique and personal service to our customers. Like our modular standing desks, all delivered and installed, and our Lancaster office chairs, made with sustainable fabric from recycled plastic. Visit ajproducts.ie or call 01 28 11 700.
You want financing to grow your business? You want to borrow, not beg. Move forward, not jump through hoops. You want it your way, not their way. You want financing fast, not the slow no. Is that too much to ask? Not if you ask us. We're Linked Finance. Just simple, fast business loans with a decision in 24 hours. Go to linkedfinance.com to apply online today. Linked Finance. What business wants. Terms and conditions apply.
Switch today to Air's totally unlimited fibre broadband, our strongest, most reliable broadband connection, straight to the heart of your home. For just $34.99 a month, you can stream the latest movies, game to your heart's content, and download your favourite music when you switch to Ireland's #1 broadband provider. Call 1-800-500-300, go in store, or visit air.ie. Air. Let's make possible. Subject to availability. Pricing refers to Air Gigabit Fibre 150 meg. For full terms and conditions, go to air.ie/gigabit fibre.
News Talk already gives you your daily fix of news and entertainment. But wouldn't you like a little bit more? More? News Talk Extra is everything you might have missed. Plus, expert tips, podcasts and competitions. All straight to your inbox. Subscribe now at newstalk.com/extra. From morning to night, we've got something for everyone on News Talk.
Good morning, you're listening to Breakfast Briefing on News Talk with me, Shane Beattie, bringing you the nation's first look at this morning's news.
I think an arts degree broadens the mind, it educates you.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, but do what you're interested in.
Good morning and welcome today. Masks for slow learners. Neffet sees the light at last.
1800 453 106 if you want to get in touch.
Has anyone considered the possibility that the universe is God? Says Graham. Well, obviously you have.
There's generally about a 1 in 11 million chance rate. Kenny texts in to say, as Jim Carrey would say, so there's a chance.
This is News Talk. On 106 to 108 FM. On the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud and smart speakers. This is News Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Quisha Conley. The government has been criticised for dragging its heels on the Richard O'Halloran case. The Dublin businessman was the subject of an exit ban from China for the past 3 years, but was eventually free to leave the country yesterday. He arrived home this morning, where he was reunited with his wife and 4 children at Dublin Airport. In a statement, Mr O'Halloran thanked Foreign Affairs Minister Simon Coveney and President Michael D Higgins for their help. However, Michael Kingston, an international lawyer and close friend of Richard, says he approached Minister Coveney at the start of the saga.
Not enough action was taken by the Irish government at that point in time, which has now been done latterly. The Chinese embassy refused to give me permission to travel to Shanghai to assist Richard. We reactivated those requests again last year. Again, it was resisted and it trundled on.
The number of COVID-19 patients being treated in ICU has dropped by almost a third in the past 12 days. 66 people are currently receiving critical care, which is the lowest number since the 5th of October last year. 649 people are in hospital with the virus, which is the lowest figure this year so far. UCC Professor of Immunovirology Liam Fanning says there's a big reason why the numbers are falling.
The characteristics of this Omicron variant changed significantly. It didn't infect the same part of the lungs as Delta. It was more upper respiratory, more up near your throat and that kind of area within the lungs, and it didn't seem to cause the overwhelming disease that Delta caused, and therefore the case admission rate to hospital was less.
And Joni Mitchell has become the latest high-profile name to ask for her music to be removed from Spotify. It's over concerns about the platform promoting Joe Rogan's podcast, who the singer says is spreading lies about COVID. She's concerned it's costing people their lives. Matt Deegan, the host of the Media podcast, thinks Spotify is in a difficult position.
Their view is that they're not there to control free speech and they wouldn't tell a rapper what to sing. We're trying to platform everybody's views and as long as they're not particularly harming, we're going to keep them on the platform.
It's 2 minutes past 4.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Leave the kids at home this midterm and book a sneaky getaway with Ryanair low-fare flights to over 200 destinations.
Mainly dry with some scattered showers in the north. Winds easing through the afternoon with highs of 8 to 11 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. Remember that Football and Off the Ball is brought to you by Sky. Watch every match from the Africa Cup of Nations live on Sky Sports. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball, streaming the conversation, listen on News Talk. Also watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels for Periscope on Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. This is Football Saturday. Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent in studio. Graham Gartland, the former League of Ireland and FAI Cup winner, is on the line, as is the UEFA Pro Licence coach Shane Keegan. No Premier League games today, but there are matches in the Championship in Scotland. We'll keep you right up to date with them between now and 5. Shane Keegan, we were speaking before the break about James Abankwah leaving St. Pat's to go to Udinese. How can we capitalise on the new interest, I suppose, that there is on Irish players in the last while? We now know that players can't go to England until they're 18 because of Brexit. We could see more players moving to other countries rather than the traditional route of going across channel to the Holyhead and Liverpool and Manchester.
Yeah, look, I think the two lads have covered it really well before the break there, but I suppose I get very frustrated when you see the usual social media backlash when somebody goes across the water for what we deem to be peanuts. But I don't think people really understand the ins and outs of, well, how difficult it is to stop that from happening. First of all, you know, it's ingrained in young soccer players' belief system, I suppose, at this stage. 95% of them believe that succeeding as a soccer player means, you know, getting out of Ireland and across the water as quickly as possible. That's how you're deemed as being successful at a young age. So that's what they're looking to do. And that's even before the agent gets into the rear and kind of says, you know, don't do anything that's going to tie you down here or going to restrict your options in terms of moving. So it's really difficult to make happen what's happened in the Abankwah case, where, you know, you do get a player tied down. He is on proper terms. There isn't a very, very low release clause. All of that stuff is difficult to make happen, requires finance, as Graham has said. And then the most important thing is when you do get it right, like you said, just don't squander it. Don't have that mean that the next 3 players you sign are signed on €1,500 a week rather than $1,200
Barcelona.
a week. No, that's absolutely brilliant to hear the way Graham has described how the Gavin Bazuna money has been spent. And to be fair to Rovers, they do absolutely seem to be doing their business in the right way. And I don't know, maybe I'm jumping the gun. I do think there is more of an ethos of long-term starting to come into League of Ireland clubs. I really do think so. I think up until, you know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, everything was about the next season and how do we use whatever finance we have to try and make sure we have the best chance of winning the title next season, or avoiding relegation next season, or whatever the aim of the club may be. I do think that's definitely starting to shift, John. It really, really is. Obviously, we've seen it there with Rovers, but I think everywhere. I think the whole underage structure, League of Ireland-wise, the whole shift towards that, I think we're finally starting to get there, and hopefully that continues over the next while.
Are these players, James Abankwah and Kevin Zeffy, Graham Gartland, the best that we have at the moment, or are they just really good players with a lot of potential that are just going to different countries?
I think there's more to come. I think there's players in every group that would be outstanding players in their age groups. James made, I think he played 18 or 13 to 18 games for Pats this year, and because they see him play at a young age or a high level, that's what sparks the interest from teams. And then they see his profile and they come and watch him, and then they go, yeah, but there's other players that are coming as well. The Zeffy one was interesting because every time he played for Ireland, he just ripped the game up, and then that's what made people stand up. I think he went over to England and played in the Victory Shield against them, and basically destroyed them over there. I think he scored 2 goals. We've another lad that from Airplace that's gone to Rome in the last couple of months, Justin Ferrugia. He's another player, but there's players coming throughout the age groups and are all the clubs. But again, you have to get to an age where you're able to offer them something along, because every kid in the UK and every kid in Europe is probably on a full-time contract at 16, and we're not. And then we're able to say, well, we want money for them, and then the player can go, no, I'll just not sign anything, and then it's just a compensation law in place. So we do have to tie them down. I was going to ask Dan a question, because I don't know what the prize money is for winning the league anymore, but I'm pretty sure Pats could win the league for the next 2-3 years and they still won't make the money that they made off selling James Abankwah. So again, what's more profitable? What's more profitable to you as a football club? Putting young players into your team to sell them, or trying to be successful and win leagues? Now, the fans are going to say win leagues. I get that. I get that side of it. And the top level of football, you want to be competitive. But there's not the prize money. And until they're both nearly equal, then it becomes a bit of a better argument. But again, I think there's more players to come. I'd like to see it. And because I spoke to the chairman at Drogheda before Christmas, and I was up there visiting the ground, and I know I mentioned Dundalk's ground, the Drogheda was worse. And I walked into it, and you're almost a little bit embarrassed that he was like, how bad it's gone. And I said to him, what are you doing, Conor? And he just said, Graham, I can't put any more money into the playing staff too much. I'm not putting any more money into the stadium. My sole purpose is to get a better training ground for the club in terms of the young players coming up, and also to get a better stadium for them to eventually play in when they grow older. And I thought, fair play to you. I thought, very good. I wish that had been a bit more the case when we were here. But I thought, fair play to you. That's the right way of going about it. So hopefully it is changing.
Yeah, I think that the FAI are launching their strategy plan for 2022 to 2025. I think it's Monday week. And I think there's no doubt there's probably going to be a big emphasis around, I think, facilities and stuff in it. Now, of course, I'm not going to take us off on this tangent today, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of people listening to this from the schoolboy football sphere who maybe would have issues over the years and maybe how compensation from, to them from League of Ireland clubs for the talent they produce might have been handled. And I think that is something that we can't run away from either. We're always talking about money coming into the League of Ireland level, but it is it's an interesting time at the moment because there's now a lot of agents operating on the scene in Ireland. There's various reasons for that. It's not just because the Brexit thing means that our players can go to Europe, so you might have different eyes coming on it. You also have a situation where what Brexit has also created is a situation that is much harder for maybe lower grade EU players to get in to the UK, whereas by contrast, due to the common travel area, Irish players once they turn 18 can go to England or Scotland far easier than equivalent players around Europe, which has led to this situation where, yes, in one way Brexit is keeping players at home for longer, but in another way they might leave in a greater number once they turn 18, and this is a very significant thing that I think we're going to see happen in the next couple of years. And this is why the whole area of compensation and the value of players and stuff is people need to be on top of it. But Graham, I completely agree with what Graham says. Some clubs, the facilities, the perception of the league doesn't help itself. What you also have, and this is something that's definitely happening out there, you have a situation where clubs maybe undercut each other a bit and create a situation where they'll say, we'll take this promising young player from you in such a way that the carrot that they can offer is that they will then demand less compensation from the UK club if they come calling. The bridge transfers they're being referred to. So there's a lot of sort of cynical practice and things going on underneath the radar which aren't particularly helpful for the goal that people want to get towards here. And it's multi-layered, and even for the FAI as the sort of the overall the governing body, it's hard for them even to maybe get on top of some of that. But it's an interesting time to be a young footballer in Ireland at the moment. It's a very different, Graham, I know Graham's experience, he went away when he was younger at a time when a lot of kids were going away, whereas now maybe in smaller quantity, and we're getting to know their stories a bit more before they go. You have this situation where you'll be going to a League of Ireland ground in March, in April, and there's James Abankwah, he's joining Udinese in the summer, and you're going to have, I think, that in the coming years. You will actually have these instances where you're getting to know them a bit more before they go. But this whole issue of how many of them could go once they turn 18, it's just something people need to be very conscious of here, that you need to have your house in order to be prepared for that, because I think
that's the snowball effect of the under-23s league in the UK as well, Dan.
Yeah.
It's that they haven't got the bodies to fill it at the moment. So I'll give you a story. We had a lad on trial at Dundee. He had left Man City and he couldn't get a club, and he came up to train with us for a week, and we gave him a good workout, gave him a game, and he just probably wasn't ahead of what was in front of him. So he said no point in taking him. I think he signed for Brighton in the Premiership, and he was like, his agent rang me, he says, listen, he's going to sign for Brighton. I got him into a Premiership club. And I spoke to somebody else about it, and they were like, they're just filling their 23s. Yeah. They're just filling their 23s, and they're doing it with UK license or UK passports, UK lads that they don't have to obviously get in because of Brexit. And it's given a little bit of a false hope to some of the kids, and maybe it's keeping them in football longer, but it is seeing a big volume of 23s. And then when push comes to shove, when they need to play them, the clubs are rather getting games called off than actually play them in the game. So that's where I think sometimes it gives a little bit of a false narrative of that, or they're taking all these young players away, but they're taking them to actually play in the 23s and fill that squad out.
Yeah, I think that's
Graham,
something. Sorry, Shane. Yeah, go on.
Did you see on that, Graham? Just today, actually, I just came across the piece on Crystal Palace. I think they're saying they're the first to bring in an aftercare program, John, whereby they're committing to a 3-year program of looking after the player once they're released from the academy structure to help them settle back into life, be that with another club or be that outside of football. Like it's flabbergasting that it's taken this long for a club to take a step like that, but you'd love to see the rest fall in line with that, and hopefully it's not just sound bites either, Graham. Hopefully it's real. You'd like to think that they genuinely mean it, you know.
We're only sort of getting a pre-care program in place, you know. That's the big thing for us. Like I said to you, getting to that age where take the agents out of it, that you get to 16 and you say we've put 5 years into your development, we're going to put you on a 2-year contract till you're 18, we're going to educate you through wherever means that we have, we're going to invest in you, we're going to take on a class of 20 lads, you're going to train, like you said, 2 mornings a week, because we have to match the training hours of other teams across Europe, otherwise you're not competing. And it's about keeping us competing, not just, like you said, the one-off players. We always had one-off players. We always had players that would pop up and they'd be unbelievable. Stephen Bradley, Robbie Keane, all these players that, Andy Reid when I was younger, like all these players that would demand big fees. Anthony Stokes, another one, they'd always pop up and we think this guy's the next one. But how do we constantly have these players going and going and going? Better facilities, better coaching, better environment for them to come through, that they don't feel they have to take something. They don't feel they have to go, and they're more mature about handling stuff going away. They don't go off, they don't get too homesick when they're away. There's a program around them that there's still a care program in place when they do go away. And there are all these things that just take a little bit more investment and a little bit more time and a little bit more planning. It's not beyond our means, but I do think the FAI need to help and they need to put these things in place, because eventually they're the ones that are going to benefit from this. They're going to have a stronger first team. They're going to have a stronger 21s. They're going to be qualifying for more tournaments. That's going to lead to an increase in revenue. It's going to lead to an increase in sponsorship. But they have to invest early where it starts. Don't just be happy to take the windfall when it comes to senior level.
We know the FAI's financial position, Dan. Is there any possibility or appetite at a government level for government support for a greater industry, especially with young lads not being able to move now till they're 18?
Well, I'm pretty sure Micheál Martin sat in this studio with Joe at one point and alluded to it. And I think, to be fair, the message always seemed to be that they were open to listening to a plan, but they needed a plan presented to them. And we'll see what this strategic plan maps out in terms of that, because I think that's part of the debate, you know, that people operating within football in the country would have here. There's a broad agreement that you need to do things better. I think everyone agrees, but people might have different ideas about how it should be done. People might think you should have one national academy as opposed to 20 League of Ireland academies. People might say, you need to be cynical and say not all of those clubs really can run an academy to a particular standard. Maybe we should, go for maybe 4 regional ones, or maybe go for, a categorisation. So if you want to set, and these are all the various pieces of the jigsaw that need to be put together to then go to government with a plan. I do think, and I'd be very... I'm not going to say anti-government, but I'd be take a very dim view of how the government has aligned itself to sport and how it attaches itself to sport when it's fashionable. But to be fair, you can't argue that they haven't helped the FAI in recent years with the sort of the bailout from the mess that happened.
The COVID support as well.
Yeah, and the COVID supports have been there too. And of course, when you give money to one sport, then it always raises questions. And there'd be Olympic sports and stuff here which are criminally underfunded, really. And Olympians, and you hear the funding that they get, and so of course everyone wants a piece of the pie. But I think there is more of a willingness there, but I actually do think that an obstacle to it is the lack of a maybe coherent plan for where we want this money to be spent and how we want it to be divided and sort of used. But I think there seems to be decent relations there, and I know obviously there's the side issue maybe of the funding that goes to horse racing and greyhound through the betting tax
RGA
as well.
stadiums.
Yeah, and I think the FIR have probably been lobbying around maybe some of those issues, maybe around the betting tax and stuff, and that might lead to something.
It would be fair enough, Dan. It would be fair enough for the government to come in and say, listen, there needs to be real accountability here. Like, we have to see where this money is being spent.
Yeah.
You have got to show us that this has been spent at the development stage of your club and not on first team player wages. I mean, to me, that would only be fair. And I think then you would like to think that, the people who are clued in the government on the sporting side of things, okay, well, then they're saying, okay, if we have that proof, then we're happy enough. Then we'll put the money in where it's needed.
Yeah, I think
bring the schoolboy clubs along with you. This isn't. People think I come on and go, it's against schoolboy clubs. It's not. I'm a massive fan of schoolboy clubs. I think what they do is unbelievable. I think they do it on a voluntary basis. I think what they do for this country and have done for this country over the years has been phenomenal. And I think you bring them along with you. I think you have to have good relationships with them. There has to be built on trust. Do you know what? We're going to turn. I'll give you an example. We ex-schoolboy club we have a player that we take at 14, say at 16 we turn him into a professional as Shamrock Rovers. We owe that club compensation. We have to pay him. There's your compensation. There you go. Thanks very much. That you can put a deal in place where you go, right, you're due X amount off that if we get X amount of a fee. You're constant, and then what happens is they get funded from it. They can then reinvest in their kids. They ring you up 2 years later and go, by the way, I have another good one for you here. He's unbelievable, but he's outgrown us. It's time for him to come up and have a better challenge. Great. What's the compensation deal in place? It's already set in stone. It goes and does well. Plays for our first team. We sell him again, reinvest it back in schoolboy thing. Because the schoolboy clubs hit a wall at 15 and 16, and if you didn't get sold, where did you go? So we're giving them that release valve at the top, but you still has to filter back down through, and it's important that them relationships are vital to moving the country forward from the start of a player's journey to what might be the end point, which is a full international, which is the start for him. But to getting there, you need everybody working together to try and get that all the way through. And again, it's for the betterment of Irish football, for the betterment of the players and the player development, and ultimately you're hoping that the sport grows from it and that the country, the team at the top end, the senior team, is the one that's successful because of the work that gets done under age level.
Graham Gartland, Dan McDonnell and Shane Keegan with us on Football Saturday, speaking about the domestic game and development of players and funding and that. 53106, you got a question or a comment on that specific topic. Just going to go through the scores in the Championship. Barnsley 0, Bournemouth 1. It is Fulham 1, Blackpool 0. Hull 2, Swansea 0. Luton 0, Blackburn Rovers 0. Middlesbrough 1, Coventry 0 is the latest. Millwall 0, West Brom 0. It is Preston 1, Bristol City 1 and QPR 4, Reading 0. It's a 5:30 kick-off match between Peterborough and Sheffield United. Still goalless between Celtic and Dundee United in the Scottish Premiership. Earlier, Rangers were held to a 3-3 draw by Ross County. Connacht 20, Glasgow Warriors 20 in the United Rugby Championship at the Sports Ground. And they're level in injury time in that Kilcoo St Finbarr's game at 1-10 apiece in the AIB Club Football Championship semi-final. And earlier on, Rory McIlroy with a 69 on day 3 of the Dubai Desert Classic to move to 10 under par, 2 shots behind the leader Justin Harding. We spoke about James O'Bank with our Dan, and Bohemians have, I think, agreed a deal with Rotherham that Georgie Kelly's going to go there. So is that a good move for him?
Well, yeah, he didn't even have to agree a deal. He was a free agent, which is, of course, one of the issues that you would have, that he was only signed at a 1-year deal last year, so he was perfectly entitled to go that way. Yeah, I mean, he's got a 3.5-year contract. I mean, then you go back to contract security and the things that Graham talks about there. And to be fair, 1 or 2 clubs in the league, particularly Shamrock Rovers, have offered out contracts of that length to slightly older players in recent years. But yeah, I think for Georgie himself, he had reasonably good options in Europe. I think Denmark was definitely one that was a runner. But I mean, it just goes to show the power of the English game, that even, this is the monster that lives next door to us, that, in League One, I think they're capable of putting together a more attractive package, a better package than a top flight team in a decent league, and definitely Georgie Kelly wasn't one who just wants, he's not one I just want to go to England because it's over the road. He's a pretty intelligent, open-minded sort of fellow. I think possibly might have been open to travel, but he's got a good deal there from Rotherham. He's got Chidozie Ogbene there, who of course is in the Ireland squad. Kieran Sadlier has just left. There's Joshua Coyote there as well. So there's a few other Irish players at the club. And I think, Rotherham have a very good chance of promotion to the Championship, and I think that's the level. It's a very good level for an Irish player to go to from here, is the Championship. And Georgie had one incredible season last year. He hasn't actually played a huge amount of football in the last couple of years because he was understudy at Dundalk to Pat Hooban for a while, so he's a little bit of an untapped resource there. But I think sometimes people might say, it's only League One, but we've got the Irish squad at the moment is 5 or 6 players from League One. So if there was League of Ireland players going straight into Championship first teams, well, those players probably should have been in the Ireland squad as well at the moment too. Like this is the level where we go to now, but hopefully it'll propel them to something better.
Aidan Brannigan sent off for Kilcoo, where the full-time whistle has gone, 1-10 apiece between themselves and St. Bars. So that's what's going on in the club championship. The Bohemians link there, you're speaking about there, Dan. The Bob Marley jersey, a lot of us are going to buy that jersey. I'm going to buy that jersey. Dalymount Park, his last performance outdoors, 1980, Bob Marley, before he sadly passed away. 10% of the proceeds going to the MSAI, Movement of Asylum Seekers in Ireland, providing sports and music equipment for those in direct provision. I think this is great corporate social responsibility. When we think of jerseys, all I can think of is clubs, especially in Premier League, bleeding families dry by altering their strip ever so slightly every season so that the kids need to get the new jersey. And I kind of think this is the kind of thing that is giving something back, and I'm not in any way cynical about this.
Well, the point is, you're buying the jersey and you're not a Bohs fan, and this is the thing about they had the attempt to do the Bob Marley jersey a couple of years ago, and then the estate, there was issues there. They weren't able to get the approval to do it, and they've done it now. And I suppose this is a slightly separate theme to what we were talking about before, about how you make things better. Like, one is our younger players and compensation and getting the value of players, but two is, I suppose, thinking outside the box and not just relying on sort of traditional sources of income. And within Ireland, no one's opinion on Bohs is going to change. Like, for some people it's like, it's great, innovation, and this is terrific, and I would certainly be very fond of a lot of the causes that they're supporting, and I think that's brilliant, and they've made themselves a presence in their community. Some people, of course, would be like, come on, Bohs, this is another gimmick from Bohs.
They're just cynics. They're just cynics.
But it's clever as well too. Like, there is no doubt about it. Bohs are not shy about pointing out that their jersey has been discussed on CNN, ESPN, countless global news organisations, millions upon millions of eyes have been put on Bohs, and they're getting orders for jerseys from all around the world. So something like shirt merchandise, which is it's a stream of income for every club here. Bohs have taken it to another level. I think they sold more jerseys outside of Ireland last year than they did inside it. So there's a shrewdness with that too as well. They're promoting some causes within it, but it's a commercially savvy thing as well too, which I think you have to. It won't be for everyone's cup of tea. And as I said, people in Ireland will have a view whether they like it or not, but that's not necessarily the market they're aiming at here.
Graham Gartland, with your Shamrock Rovers sensibilities, are you going to buy that Bob Marley jersey?
Shane can do that one.
Just give us some answer, Graham. Just give us something, Can you get beyond it? They've got Andy Lyons from Bohs, but they don't have a Bob Marley shirt, I
know. I understand the side of it. I think when people say, it's great and it's a wonderful thing that the causes it's going to, I go, well, if it goes to that, then fair enough. But again, like you said, it's just a way of making a few bob as well. So the cynical side of me does kick in. But
Graham.
You know what? listen, I'll be a very cynical person in general. But no, like you said, it's for a good cause. It's brought a bit of attention to the league. It's brought a bit of attention to Bohs, and anything that shines a good light on the league is okay with me. So that's where I'll give it that. But fair play to them. It's like you said, it's giving a positive spotlight to the league and to a club that I probably wouldn't be very fond of, but at least it's
the nicest thing he's ever said.
The United Nations comes to OTB Football Saturday with Graham Gartland's diplomatic response to that query about the Bob Marley jersey. Now, Shane Keegan, you're going to be buying the Bob Marley jersey, aren't you?
I'll tell you, it's very, very nice. All the Bohs gear is lovely. I always liked black and red as a combination with gear. I think it looks lovely. I got the St Mirren away jersey last year when Jamie McGrath went there. It was black and red as well. So the only downfall this time, Dan, is that they don't have the supermodel of all supermodels, Rob Cornwall, to model it for them, isn't it?
No, he's gone to the States now. Yeah, the Bohs centre half. He was a sideline as a jersey model. Yeah. But
it is. Look, it's a really, really clever move. So it is. I'd love to see what the final figure is in terms of jersey sales. Like, it could turn out to be like it could make it be a difference maker for them in terms of the amount of revenue that it could bring in, which again, we're talking about how clubs can invest money. Well, if you come up with clever moves like this, you can call it a gimmick, you can call it what you want, but if it generates money that can go into the underage structure and help players develop, well then brilliant, get on board with it. But look, they're as Dan says, they're not everybody's cup of tea. I think it's great. I like I like Dan Lambert, and I like the angles that they come from, and they certainly do think outside the box. You have to hand them that.
Parents out there, 53106, is it still a thing that you feel under pressure to get your boy or girl a jersey for the new season, the new version?
I'll answer that.
Go on, Graham.
Yes,
right, still going on.
Yeah,
me too. My two boys. Like, one of them's jersey daft. Like, he has an Ireland rugby jersey, he has a Leinster jersey, he has Liverpool jerseys, just because it's just like, gets a jersey, that's his thing. So it is. And I remember when you touched on it there about the jersey, remember they started bringing out Champions League edition jerseys as well. So you'd have a home jersey, away jersey, a third strip, and then a Champions League strip, and you were like, just like you said, you were just bleeding families dry. So hopefully that's the end of it. They just bring out a jersey every 2 years, and that's the way forward. But there is a lot of pressure on parents to make sure their kids have jerseys. Yeah.
How much are we talking about, lads?
I was looking. Our lad turned 7 last week. He already has the Spurs outfield jersey and the whole lot. So he decided now he wanted Hugo Lloris's strip. And of course, with kids that age, like for a 7-year-old, he just, it can't be the jersey. Like, it has to be the jersey, shorts and socks. And like, shorts are down to 25 quid, John. So they are. And the socks, then you're probably looking at 12 to 15. And the jersey itself, of course, he'll want Keegan number 8 on the back, and he'll cop if he hasn't got the Premier League logo on the sleeve and the whole lot. So you're coming in and around 120, 130 quid. Like,
there's the peer pressure as well. I don't know. It's pretty. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it, because I was that person myself when I was 7 or 8. So look, there we go.
Putting a kid in a Spurs jersey. Oof.
I know, yeah, it's a crime against fashion and humanity.
Surely you should have been Keegan 2 for the right back. That's what you should be getting him like father, like son. Get him the 2, get him as then at right full, Shane.
Dan, if you saw this, this man has no intention of ever making a tackle in his entire life, I think, by the looks of things so far. Just give me the ball, let me dribble, and let me try and score.
Oh, okay. Number 10, so okay.
That's the thing. Like, we never had the names back in the day. Well, like, now you have to probably have the name, don't you, on the back? Whether it's
100%. He's a cut again. Like Graham said about his kids, he's got an absolutely ridiculous amount of jerseys, and it's kind of, there's a decision each time as to whether he's picking a favourite player to put the name on and name a number on the back, or whether he's going with his own name, and whichever is his favourite number at the time. Yeah, but I don't know if he hardly has a jersey that doesn't have, PSG jersey with Messi, Barca jersey with Messi, Juventus jersey with Ronaldo, Spurs jersey with Kane. They all have something on the back. Yeah.
Did you swap many jerseys, Graham? Was that a thing?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, I swapped. Yeah, I would have swapped a bit, yeah. Back to the European games was always one that you swapped, and then a couple of times playing in Scotland, I would have swapped a few. So yeah, I would have swapped. Yeah, Larson gave me his jersey. That was I actually, we played Helsingborg.
Oh yeah.
And we played against Larson, and they sort of said, don't ask for jerseys type of thing. And we were a bit like, because they need them for the next round, and you're like, we haven't even played just yet. Like, it was a little bit like very arrogant. I think they were right though. So they blitzed us over there, and I had just gone off to get treatment, and I came back on, and I ended up standing beside him, and the ref blew his whistle. I said, listen, I know I'm not meant to ask, but I says, could I get your jersey? I says, me auntie had just passed away, and I was giving it to the hospice to raffle off. And he waited. He says, I'll give it to you inside. And he waited at the end of the tunnel, and I was last in. I was walking in with Paul, and I was last in. He stood waiting, and he said, here. He says, all the best. And I just handed him mine. I said something like, you can wash the car with that or something. And then, it was a nice touch. I gave it to my uncle, and he raffled it off at Harold's Cross Hospice. I think he got about two grand for it. So it was, went to a good cause in the end. But that was the one, that was probably the biggest one that I would have sort of waited for. But other ones I didn't later on. I just stopped. I just left it at that. But yeah, the European games were the ones that you'd sort of swap and have a few in there from then, and a couple of Celtic ones or Rangers ones and things like that. But good, just memories really. All my stuff is put away or down to my mum's. I don't have much stuff out, so they're all just memories. One day I might take them out or something, get a little shed down the back of the garden and put them in there for just to look at when I'm old and can't do anything else. But
did you get a Dino Kiev one then, Graham? Did you get any of them?
Yeah, I got. Yeah, the Kiev one was strange as well, because the lad I played against had been taken off, and he was one of those in the games. He was quite chatty, small lad up front. So we were last in, and we had to walk by their dressing room on the way down after the game, and because the game was so tight, all you could hear was the manager just ripping them. Like, you didn't know. Obviously, you didn't know what he was saying, but he was just so vocal, so aggressive in everything he was giving. And he had a sliding door, and I just slid the door open, and I just threw my jersey. I went, send your. I just pointed at him and said, send it in like that. And the manager turned and looked as if, what the? And then another fella popped out and was like, what? And I went, I'm talking to him. And then he closed the door, and then about 10 minutes later, the jersey arrived in, said, give that to, your man walked in and said, here, handed it over, went over, shook his hand and had a thing. But I always laugh, Shane Robinson, there was a lad playing, they had signed a lad, didn't he, Karluka, I think, had just signed from Croatia, I think, before we played them. I think it was 5.5 million or 8 million euros. And Shane Robinson had played against them, for the 2 games, gone toe-to-toe with him, had a right good battle with him, aggressive enough but friendly enough. And at the end of the game, he said, do you want to swap jerseys? And he looked over and he says, no, I promised it to him. And I think it was Guy Bates, who was one of the subs, who hadn't even had a minute of the game, had lined them up with a jersey. And Shane was absolutely fuming. He's like, you didn't even play. But that type of stuff would infuriate you. But I remember Shane just being particularly annoyed because he was the big draw, the boy Karluka. He was a really good player. So yeah, just moments like that stick with you.
Okay.
Yeah, when we had Arsenal, John, with Dundalk in the Champions League, the boys from up north are all big, massive Celtic fans, So big fans of Kieran Tierney, and Michael Duffy had been at Celtic with Kieran Tierney and was still quite friendly with him. So Michael had texted him, saying, "Listen, make sure after the game I want that jersey." But of course, then Fats, Patrick McElhenney got onto him. Then Cameron Dunnigan got onto him. Fair play to Kieran Tierney. He arrived out with 3 jerseys, 3 of his jerseys with his name and number on the back. So I think Michael Duffy, Fats, and Cammy Dunnigan all managed to get a Kieran Tierney jersey off him on the back of that one.
That'd be a good night out if they all went into a bar with the 3 Tierney jerseys on the back of them. But yeah,
it would. We played. The other one was we played when we played Rapid Wien. I was saying to a few of the lads, having done the scouting on them, I suppose, heading up to it. They had a boy playing for them, John, called UC Demir. And I remember just saying to the lads, you need to get your hands on this jersey, because this fella is going to be a real player, to be one worth having in another couple of years. So it would. But he signed for Barcelona at the start of this season, and then whatever that crack went on with the wage cap or the salary kind of crack that went on. I just read last week that they had to terminate his contract, and he's gone back. So I don't know what happens with him from there, but. Yeah, he's going to be a star, so he is. It'll be a nice one. It'll be a jersey that'll be worth a few quid eventually.
Fair play. Shane Keegan, Graham Gartland and Dan McDonnell on Football Saturday. As a texter text in on 53106, soccer, is there anything else on? Well, unfortunately, this is Football Saturday until 5. We're back after this.
Sports.
This is Football Saturday until 5. John Duggan with Dan McDonnell, Shane Keegan and Graham Gartland. It seems that Wes Hoolahan might have scored for... although there's contesting whether it's an own goal or not, but he might have scored for Cambridge against Fleetwood in the League One today. 1 apiece at the moment into the closing stages there. The Championship, Barnsley 0, Bournemouth 1 is the latest. Fulham 1, Blackpool 0. That game delayed as half time. It's Hull 2, Swansea 0. It is Luton 0, Blackburn Rovers 0. Blackburn doing well. Middlesbrough 1, Coventry 0. Millwall 2, West Brom 0. It is Preston 1, Bristol City 2. QPR 4, Reading 0.
I was just going to say the Wes Hoolahan one, that if it was an own goal, it was Anthony Pilkington, of course, his old Norwich teammate. I'm reflecting on the time where there was a big hoopla about
passports, was it?
No, there was that, but Trapattoni being sent to Norwich by the FAI to do more scouting, to go and watch Wes Hoolahan and Anthony Pilkington. That was the story that was put out when he didn't get the bullet after the Faroe Islands game, but all of a sudden it was like the FAI have urged Trapattoni to do more work, go to England, go to Norwich on Saturday. Trapp has been sent to Norwich to watch Wes Hoolahan and Anthony Pilkington. Who would have thought that, however many years later it is now, 10 years later actually it will be, that the Wes Hoolahan will be sticking in a corner that Anthony Pilkington may or may not put into his own net.
We live in a strange world, Dan.
They were together for so long and now they're apart at League One level, but there we go. Yeah, Anthony Pilkington I think played in India for a while or something as well too. He's definitely had an interest in football life since then, but he didn't necessarily build on his early Irish promise.
One of the best websites is Transfermarkt, which is exactly where I'm going now.
You get all sorts of that, and Anthony Pilkington's circular career. Yeah, I see Ross Tierney's actually made his first start for Motherwell today. Actually, we should mention it, in Scotland. There's a lot of reference of like the Irish kids, and they are behind at the moment, but he actually has put himself into their team. He's playing for them, so another name to watch in the next while, I would think.
SC East Bengal he played for before he went to Fleetwood, Anthony Pilkington.
The well-known route from East Bengal to Fleetwood. Yeah. Every player makes that move over the years.
It sounds like something, I don't know, out of the 18th century or something. You got a train or something from Bengal to Fleetwood. 9 appearances for the Republic of Ireland. Anthony Pilkington, who's been around the houses in terms of his football career. We got text in here on 53106. Clubs in the League of Ireland need to work harder to get into the hearts and minds of the public here. That would be a starting point, says Ken in Wexford. Interesting text. And also the rugby academies in Ireland seem to have a good model. Each province has got a large enough catchment area, and the IRFU only has to spread the academy support 4 ways. Realistically, it wouldn't be financially viable for the FAI to split academy money across all League of Ireland teams. Should a small number of teams be picked, should there be a province level academy, says Paddy in Kildare.
Well, I mentioned that some people would have the view about the regional academy, but like sometimes just comparisons with the rugby climate and the football climate, they just don't, it's apples and oranges in terms of how the sports operate. But there, I can see why some people would make that argument. I'm just not sure if it would be strictly on provincial lines, but a smaller number of academies, like there's something in that maybe. Yeah.
Kilcoo lead St Finbarr's now 114 to 111 in extra time of that AIB All-Ireland Club Football Championship semi-final, so they've got the edge at the moment, the Down Club. Glasgow 35, Connacht 20 as well in the United Rugby Championship. Graham Gartland, I was interested with Mane and concussion during the week, that he got concussed and he continued to play and he scored in the middle of that. Was it a thing in football that was even addressed when it happened to you, or if it ever happened to you when you were a professional?
No. I was tested afterwards for it, but it was a little bit. It was like, don't flag it. We've a big game again next week, so don't flag it too much. So I think I got concussed playing for Longford against Shamrock Rovers and split my head, and then semi-final for Drogheda against Bray as well. I had 2 head knocks in that and stitches in that, and ended up with concussion, but it was in the build up to a final then, so it was a little bit like just keep it under wraps. But there wasn't the protocols there is now. That's the surprising bit, is that the protocols have come from above the sanctioning bodies of football, so you think they would be implemented then, because you're answering to somebody else. It's not just the football clubs running it themselves. So that was the interesting bit, that a doctor didn't come on and say no, he has to come off now like they do in rugby. That's the bit. Sorry, I know we went back to a rugby analogy there straight away, but that would have been the big thing in rugby. It's like, no, it's been flagged, he's off, and I think that's what should have happened with Mane as well, but it didn't.
What's the current environment, Shane, given you've been involved in the game recently, around the treatment of concussion in football?
Yeah, I suppose there's what should I say and what do I really say here, John? Like, there's no doubt that...
Don't libel anybody.
No, I won't. Hopefully not me anyway. But look, like, your instinct, your natural reaction as a manager is, you know, if you're within earshot of a player, if you can get to the player before the physio does, you probably are kind of saying to him, listen, you know, try not to mention any dizziness here, or try not to say anything that's going to take it out of my hands in terms of you've been brought off. And then the player themselves, naturally enough, is going to want to brave it out as well. That's just human nature. That's just the way it is going to be. I don't know how you stop that. Like, you can bring in all the protocols you want, but unless the player is being honest, I mean, how does the doctor know more in that situation than the player does themselves if the player is telling lies? Like, if you're dizzy and your legs are unstable, but you're claiming that you're all right and you're just about able to tell them how many fingers you're holding up, you know, you're probably still in control of the situation slightly. But like Graham says, I'm absolutely amazed. Like, you'd love to know what Liverpool made, kind of watching on and all of that situation, and, you know, are they able to get in contact or try and make a move in that sense as well, you know? But look, the player, the manager, you're always going to try and claim that you're not, even if you are, you know.
That's an international tournament, and Mo Salah is still in it with Egypt and everything. I just can't believe what Infantino said during the week, Dan. I really despair for FIFA. I despair for the beautiful game. I would hate to see a World Cup every 2 years. I would think it would ruin football. I think it would ruin the game. I think it's the one maybe guiding light with all the money that's in football and states running clubs and all that kind of thing, and Newcastle and Man City and Chelsea and all that and the people who own football clubs, that the international game actually is still, I think there's a purity to it still, despite the disaster and the horrific nature of Qatar and the disgusting nature of it and the people dying, migrant workers. Is it going to be every 2 years? Is it going to get that avaricious and that greedy and that just overcooked, and players just used as just complete pawns in this?
Well, it's one of those where you're waiting for people to shout stop, and to a degree you've seen, you know, Europe and South America sort of come together on it. But, you know, it depends how democratic people want things to be. You know, like, if Infantino does get the African lobby, and this is how FIFA has got a lot of decisions over the line in recent years. That's what they've done. It was a very blatterish thing to do, you know, to sort of target the sort of the, you know, the parishes that have been forgotten, even if it's like, I think just like the absolute loss of perspective and self-awareness at a FIFA presidential level. It should never surprise you, but sometimes they get so wrapped up in themselves, they slip up, and like Infantino managed to do that, say something so outlandish that it did manage to take off and even lead to a little bit of a semi-attempt at a retraction. You know, just like, as I said, I think I might mention this during the week, like, FIFA has grandiose notions about itself as a state, you know, as a force for good, even though there's plenty of evidence to suggest the opposite. But they do play that game well. It's like, I mean, maybe it's like Irish politics, it's the parish pump stuff, you know. It's maybe there's parallels there in some weird way, but just over-egged it a bit much. But I mean, if they can carry the votes from, even though like there's no real sense that this is like, that more World Cups will really mean more opportunities for a lot of the countries that might vote for this, you know. I mean, it's lunacy. But I mean, you just can't disregard it because of what you're dealing with. But I think there's a bigger power struggle between FIFA and UEFA around the World Club Cup and the Super Leagues and a lot of the various things which this has probably been caught up in. Just the fact is you've got Arsene Wenger sort of shilling for it as well too, which is slightly alarming as well.
Strange end to his career, isn't it?
Yeah, bit of a taint of the legacy, yeah.
Yeah. We got to leave it there. Shane Keegan and Graham Gartland, great to talk to you.
Thanks, lads. Appreciate
Cheers, John.
it.
And we'll hear from Graham and Shane in the not too distant future on OTB Saturday. And Dan, thank you.
Thank you, John. See you soon.
Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent. Let's just go through the scores from the Championship as we prepare to wrap up the show here. Barnsley 0, Bournemouth 1 is a full-time. Latest score, Fulham 1, Blackpool 0. It has ended Hull 2, Swansea 0. It is latest score, Luton 0, Blackburn Rovers 0. Middlesbrough 1, Coventry 0 is a full-time. Millwall 2, West Brom 0 is a full-time. Preston 1, Bristol City 2 is the latest, and QPR 4, Reading 0 is a full-time score. And also in Scotland, with Rangers drawing 3-3 with Ross County earlier on. Celtic now lead Dundee United into stoppage time by 1-0. So Ange Postecoglou's side set for victory. We've got to leave it there. Off the ball, back with Joe Malloy 1-7 tomorrow. The Sunday papers, Gráinne McElwain and Kieran Cunningham. Feature on sports, books and movies. Alan Dimmock on the Six Nations. Also an interview with Derek McGrath, so the hurling manager, the former one of Waterford. Be sure to join us then for some great conversations and updates. If you missed any of the Saturday panel previewing the Six Nations, Mallow Kelly, Alan Quinlan and Mike Ruddock, or any of Football Saturday with Shane, with Dan and with Graham, be able to find the podcasts of our content on the OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store to download the app. Thanks so much for listening this afternoon. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye.